Greetings, crafters. It's Julie Creek from Creek Bank Creations, here to share with you the instructions for the mini tote die. Now, this is a die that you purchase, and it cuts the little tote piece. It does not include the mini milk carton. So if you want the mini milk cartons, those come separately. This piece is just making the little tote. So it's a fun little project, and you can make the milk cartons and they'll fit in there. You can put other small things in there. Let's turn that around. Or you can make it and it'll fit, the K-Cup project. So I'm going to go over with you guys how this works. What's great is this. These are the K-Cups. Let's move that so you can see better. These are the little, this is the K-Cup project, and if you haven't seen my video on the mini milk carton or the K-Cup, those are available on separate videos on how to make these. What's fun is you can actually make the holder, and then you can put your little boxes in there, and now you have coffee and chocolate. So neat little set, and I want to share with you today how to actually make the little tote so that the milk carton and the K-Cup can fit in it. Again, when you buy this, you are not getting the milk carton or the K-Cup holder, you're just getting the tote. So what we have when we open up that package are, you will find 4 dies. And this is your base die that you're going to make the actual tote with. So in order to make a tote, you need 2 of them, and you make one, you make the other, and you adhere them together. Now, once you adhere them together, you can go back in and die cut this decorative panel and put that on the side. So this large house looking piece is the side panel. This is your front panel right here. So I know y'all could have cut that with your paper trimmer, but we have room in the die, and it didn't cost us any extra to add it on there, so you have the exact size for that. And then you have this little notch piece. So I want to explain about the notch piece. If you're making the box and you're going to just use the box by itself, and you're not going to attach it to the other side, which you can do, you can make just a box like this, and that's a cool little project, okay? If you're going to attach the 2 of them together, or if you want to add a little ribbon, this little notch piece makes a little handle for you. See if you can see that, okay? So what you need to do is die cut this first by itself, and then if you want to add the notch, you run it through a second time, you tape the notch into place on top of your cardstock. You're cutting this piece on cardstock, and that'll give you your notch. And I'll show you more later. I want to talk about this base die first. So this is the base die. This is what cuts that actual little box. This die is a long die. This die is like 10.25 inches long and nearly 6 inches wide. So it's like 5 11/15. It's really long this way. In order for us to get that tab across the bottom, we have a really long die. So you do need the extended cutting plates with this. Now, I did have a customer ask me if I have to have the extended cutting plates, do I have to have the extended cutting platform? And the answer is yes, you need both. Now, can you run it through halfway and then very, very carefully slide it over and run it through the rest of the way on a standard cutting platform? Yes, you can. It's very difficult, but you can do it. So I do recommend that you get the extended cutting platforms for this. So in order to get started, we want to take some cardstock and we want to cut the basic design. And I like to use like 65-pound cardstock. I don't want very heavy cardstock. Cut the basic design. And if I'm going to make the container where I have 2 pieces back to back like this, I like to cut 2 pieces at once. So on the Vagabond, that's no problem. You can run it right through. If you're using The Big Shot, you might want to just run it through twice or 3 times to make sure you cut through all of your layers. Now, if we're going to add the little notch at the top so we can tie ribbon in, then what we want to do is die cut both of those at the same time so that the notch is in exactly the same place. So the first pass, we're just going to cut the actual red paper. We're going to make that base shape. The second time, we're going to go back in, tape that die in so it's centered correctly, and then we're going to take our undo adhesive remover and just put a little undo on your project. And undo will suspend adhesion on that tape, and you'll be able to pull that tape right up. It won't leave any residue. Then what I do is go back in and tape that right into my die, and then when I need it the next time, it already has that piece of tape on it. So that's how we cut the notch in. That's why the notch is in there. It's just a fun little accent piece. So if we're going to put our project together, the first thing we want to do is train all of the folds. Now, when I train the folds on these kinds of projects, I like to go both directions, back and forth, and get a really good clean fold out of it. Make sure I have good clean lines. Okay, and then we're going to take our jig. Now, if you've watched my videos before, you know every time I make a project, I make a jig. And the jig is always cut on orange paper. And when I put my die away, I store the jig with my die, and then the next time I get it out, I already have the cheat sheet done. Now, what you'll see on my jig, I want to explain how I marked my jig. This long mark, this long mark, and this long mark are for adhesive. This is how I always mark my die. So I always know if I have a big fat black marker line, that's where I'm going to have adhesive. And then I made a note. I'm going to cut 2 patterned paper. So I'm going to take that rectangle die and I'm going to cut 2 of those. And I'm telling myself I also need 2 of the house shape. So you can see this looks a little odd when you're looking at it here, but this is the side panel. So you're going to put half on one box and half on another. But I've made the note to myself, I need to cut 2 of pattern paper for that purpose. Now, I really like to cover the bottom of the box with pattern paper. This doesn't quite close, so you need to have a piece of paper in there just to give it closure, and it also gives it stability. Really hard to make this size of a box when we only have a 6-inch platform. Something else I want to mention to you on this die, because this die is so large, I want to show you this. It's 6 inches. So if you get on your cutting plate, you're putting your paper on, and you're not sure that the whole thing is going to fit, if you have to short something, short this end, which are the flaps that fold in, because it doesn't matter. You want to make sure when you put the die on the paper, that this piece right here is all the way on the paper, because you're going to end up adhering those 2 pieces together, and you want them identical. The bottom is going to end up not showing anyway, and it won't matter. So just a little note about that. So we got our pieces that we have, and we have our jig. So the purpose of the jig is that it is giving me the information that I need. And a lot of times we open a die package and we get it all figured out, and then we put it away, and then somebody's birthday comes up and we want to make another project, and we get it out and we have to reinvent the wheel. So for me, the jig is telling me everything I need to know. Now you see I turned my jig over and there's nothing on the side. So I don't have to worry about putting adhesive on that side. Okay, now we're going to turn that back over, and we're going to adhere our pattern paper. So I'm going to take my paper, a little decorative element here, and adhere that with some super tacky tape. That's going right here. I like to try to adhere these elements when the card or project is flat, if I can. I can't put the other piece on because that requires me to, it's on a fold and that won't work, but I can put that one on. Now we're ready to assemble. So what we're going to do is turn this over. Get rid of this for you. We're going to turn this over so that we have that angled piece on the right side with the tab here. And we're going to fold that first one in to the center. And we're going to remove the tape liner. Then we're going to take the flap on the left, and we're going to fold it in and push it down. And we just made the box. You want to make sure that you have a really nice, crisp, clean fold right along this edge. Now what we have left are the bottom. So we're going to remove the tape liners. Fold the bottom in. Turn that over, fold the bottom in, and stick that down. Now, what I like to do is turn that over and push that down into the table, so that gives you a really nice closure. Now, it's not a perfect closure, so what you want to do is have some paper ready that you can adhere in there. So you would adhere that in the bottom, and adhere this in the bottom, and then you have a good clean finish on your project. I prefer when I put those 2-inch pieces in that I put them in with liquid glue, but I don't want to take the time to do that today. Okay, so we have our boxes, our 2 boxes finished, and we're ready to put them together. So I want to show you how to assemble this part. I like to use the liquid glue from Art Institute. We're going to run that down through there. And if you wanted to glue these together with, I use tape for the other part, but if you wanted to use glue, you certainly could. I do like the way the Art Institute glue kind of stabilizes everything. We're going to put those 2 together. We're going to make sure when we put this at the top that we have good clean edge at the top. And I like to take my ruler, show you how I do this, and hold that in there so that I can push everything together nice and flat. So that really gives you really good adhesion. It's not going anywhere and it keeps it nice and square. So there's your little box all together. Now remember, we had that other house-shaped die that we die cut. We're going to slide that right on there. So we're going to take our liquid glue. We're going to go around the edge with the liquid glue. Put that right on our project. And we have made our side panel. Now I did add, while you were away, while I finished up that other one offline, I added the little red pieces in the bottom so you can see how that, when you do that, it adds that little pop of color to the bottom in the box. So now you have your box. You can tie some ribbon on the top, and you can put your little mini milk cartons in there. Isn't that a cute little thing? Who doesn't want to get that? Or you can do a milk carton and a K-cup. Or you can do 2 K-cups. This is fun. It's just fun. So you can do it in any color. We are looking at today, what you're seeing here is the sunshine paper pad and the red watercolor paper pad. Do that so you can see it on the camera. New paper pads for us, and it is January of 2020. So nice little gifts. I hope you've enjoyed the video today. You can find these products on our website at www.creekbankcreations.com.